Hello?
Allenbury 8130.
Yes, who is that?
Is that Mr. Paxton? Ned Tallboy here.
Oh, hello, Mr. Tallboy.
I've just had the inspector here. He told me about Jeffrey, about the murder. I can hardly believe it.
It's true, I'm afraid.
Well, tell me, how's Diana? Is she all right? How's she taken it?
I've just brought her home. She's bearing up very well, considering.
My God, what a dreadful shock for her. Look, old man, please tell her if there's anything I can do for her, anything.
Thank you, Mr. Tallboy. I'll tell her. You say the inspector told you about this morning?
Yes, he called in the garage. He's only just left, as a matter of fact. He wanted a key for the car.
Which car?
Well, Jeffrey's, the Aston. It's still in the car park, I imagine.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course.
Now, don't forget to let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Mr. Tallboy. It's very kind of you. I'll probably drop in on you later.
Yes, please do, old boy. Do that.
Why did you say that? About dropping in on him?
No particular reason. I just wanted to hear what the inspector told him. You look done in, Diana. Can I get you a drink?
No, I've got rather a headache. I'm going to take a couple of aspirin.
Well, I feel like one.
Help yourself. Mark.
Yes?
That man. The one I identified as Jeffrey.
Well?
Who was he?
I don't know.
Jeffrey knew. Jeffrey knew who he was.
What do you mean Jeffrey knew?
He knew that man was going to be found this morning. That's why he phoned me and told me to identify the body.
Diana, do you realize what you're saying? Jeffrey is dead.
No.
I tell you, he's dead. Listen, Diana, I examined him twice. Once just after he was shot. The second time, 5 minutes later when I was covering the body up. Now, he was dead, Diana. Make no mistake about it. He was dead.
How do you account for the fact that he disappeared?
Someone took the body from my car. They must have done.
And the phone call?
I told you about the phone call. It wasn't Jeffrey. It was someone else. Someone impersonating him.
Someone impersonating him? Do you think I don't know Jeffrey's voice when I hear it? Do you think I...
Who is it?
I don't know.
Are you expecting anyone?
No. I'll go and see. It's Thelma Bowen and her husband.
Thelma?
Oh, you know. She's a friend of mine. You've met her. She's got a shop in Allenbury.
She was here yesterday morning. She arrived just as I was leaving.
Yes, that's right. Look, I don't want to see them. I know what's happened. She wonders why I haven't gone away.
Look, you'll have to see her sooner or later. You might just as well see her now. All right, Diana. You go upstairs. I'll talk to them. There's been an awful accident, and Mr. Stewart has been found dead this morning.
But when did this happen?
This morning. At least they found him this morning.
Where?
At Benchley Wood.
But what was he doing at Benchley Wood?
Well, we don't know. No one knows. That's a complete mystery.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
You say Diana's upstairs?
Yes, she's resting. We got back about 10 minutes ago. Mrs. Stewart's taken it very well, but she's terribly distressed, of course.
My God, I should think so.
Stay here, Walter. I'm going to see if there's anything I can do for her.
I don't think I'd go up, Mrs. Byrne. She's taken a sedative. She's probably asleep by now.
Oh, don't worry. If she's asleep, I shan't disturb her.
Leave it to Thelma, dear boy. She knows what she's doing. She and Diana are very close. They always have been.
Yes, of course. It's just that... Well, it's terribly difficult to know what to do. This has been quite a shock for me, too, Mr. Byrne.
I'll bet it has, dear boy. But what happened exactly? All we heard was that the holiday was off and Jeffrey was supposed to have disappeared.
Well, that's the thing. He did disappear. That's the extraordinary thing. He and I went to see a property together, Lincoln Manor. I dropped Mr. Stewart at the house and then went over to Oakfield. I was supposed to pick up a man called Watling.
Len Watling, the surveyor.
That's right. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I couldn't get hold of Watling, and when I got back to the house, there was no sign of Mr. Stewart. The next time I saw him was this morning at Benchley Wood.
It's incredible. But what happened? What do you think happened?
Oh, it's impossible to say. His wallet was missing. I expect he had money in it. Traveller's checks, perhaps. He was going abroad.
Is that what the police think, that someone picked him up?
Well, I don't know what the police think, Mr. Byrne. They haven't confided in me.
Who's in charge of the case? Clay?
Yes, that's right. Inspector Clay. Do you know him?
Well, I've met him. I know most of the local people. Through Thelma, of course.
Are you in business, Mr. Bone?
Oh, no, God forbid. No, I'm a writer. A playwright, really, but I churn out the odd article for the local press now and again. Incidentally, talking of Clay, dear boy, let me give you a tip. Whatever you do, don't underrate him.
Why should I do that?
You know what I mean.
No, I'm afraid I don't know what you mean.
He gives you the impression he doesn't know his arse from his elbow. Well, he does. Curiously enough, Thelma and I were talking about you only last night, dear boy.
About me?
Yes, I said that you worked for Geoffrey for about a year, and Thelma said it must be 2 by now.
Well, I'm afraid you're both wrong. However, since you're interested, I joined the firm 3 years ago.
Did you? I didn't realize that. You're the manager there, aren't you?
Yes, sort of.
Well, I must say you've done very well for yourself. How is she, Thelma?
Well, she's not too bad, I suppose, considering, but I don't honestly think the poor dear realizes what's happened.
Is she in bed?
No, she was just getting undressed. She asked me to try and get hold of Mrs. Houston.
Mrs. Houston?
That's the housekeeper. She's away at the moment. Walter, I'm afraid we'll have to put those friends of yours off. I couldn't cope with them, not tonight. In any case, I've told Diana I'll pop back again just to make sure she's all right.
Yes, of course. Why don't you stay the night with her, Thelma?
Well, she doesn't want me to. Anyhow, we'll see. What are your plans, Mr. Paxton? Could you stay here until about 4 o'clock?
Well, yes, I think so.
I'm afraid I've got to get back to the shop, and we can't very well leave her here on her own.
Well, no, of course not.
I'll be back here by 4 o'clock. Maybe 3:30 with a bit of luck.
Well, all right, Mrs. Bone, I'll stay till I hear from you. I don't suppose Mrs. Stewart will mind if I use the telephone.
Don't be silly, dear boy. Make yourself at home.
Oh, before I forget, here's Diana's cigarette case. It was in her coat.
Her coat?
Yes, I took her fur coat up to London yesterday. She's having it remodeled. She left her cigarette case in it.
Oh, yes, well, I'll give it to her.
I'll do my best to get back by 3:30, Mr. Paxton.
Have they gone?
Yes, but Thelma's coming back.
When?
This afternoon.
Oh, God. What did she say to you?
Oh, she seemed upset, genuinely concerned about you, in fact.
Oh, yes, she is. I'm afraid she's going to be rather a nuisance for a couple of weeks at least. We'll have to put up with it.
It's not Mrs. Byrne I'm worried about.
What do you mean?
Dinah, listen, we've got to be careful. Both of us. We've both got to be very careful. Do you understand?
No, I don't understand.
We haven't got to see too much of each other. We certainly mustn't be seen alone together, not if we can help it.
Mark, what's the matter? You're worried.
No, I'm not worried. It's just that I have a feeling, hunch, if you like, about Walter Bowen.
What about him?
I think he knows. About us, I mean.
Why do you say that?
It's just something he said. It wasn't anything specific. It was just that, well... Why are you smiling?
You had me worried for a minute. Oh, I know Walter. Oh, he always puts on that act. Pretends he knows everything that's going on. Well, he doesn't. He's just a great big phony.
Yes, well, he may be a phony.
There's no maybe about it. He is. Calls himself a writer. Hasn't written anything for years. If it weren't for Thelma, he'd starve. Believe me, darling. Walter's the least of our worries.
Yes, well, I hope you're right. Oh. Thelma asked me to give you this. You left it in your coat.
My coat?
Yes, didn't you take your coat up to London for you?
Yes, she did, but
Well,
it's not mine.
of course it's yours. It was in your coat pocket.
I tell you, I've never... It's beautiful. But it isn't mine.
Don't be stupid, darling. It's even got your name in it. To Diana, who came like a bat out of hell, loved Geoffrey.
Mark, I tell you, I've never seen this case before. Never. What does it mean? Who came like a bat out of hell?
Hello, Squire.
I called in the garage. They said you'd probably be here.
Yes, I usually skip lunch these days. Sit down, old boy. What'll you have?
May I have a scotch and soda?
Yes, of course. Scotch and soda, please, Beryl. Just talking about poor old Geoffrey. She knew all about it. My God, you know, it's amazing how news travels.
Especially bad news.
Yes, you can say that again. Tell me, how's Diana?
It's been a terrible shock to her, of course, terrible. But she's a pretty tough woman. At least that's how she strikes me at the moment, at any rate.
Well, let's hope you're right. She'll have to be pretty tough from now on.
Why do you say that?
Well, she'll take over, won't she? She'll run the firm, I imagine. And you've got to be pretty tough in your business, Squire. You must know that better than I do.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Still, I imagine you'll be of great help to her.
Well, I'll certainly do what I can, of course. What did the inspector have to say, Mr. Talboy?
Well, he told me about Geoffrey. And then he asked me one or two questions.
About Mr. Stewart?
No, mostly about myself, old boy.
About yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Why should he be interested in you, Mr. Talboy?
I don't know, but he was. No, as a matter of fact, that's not strictly true. I do know why he was curious about me. Being a bachelor, I've got a bit of a reputation. Quite unfounded, I assure you. And he probably thought I'd heard something.
About Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
I don't get it. Why should you have heard anything about Mr. Stewart?
Women talk, old boy. Sometimes without realizing it.
Oh, I see. And had you heard anything?
Oh, no, not at all. Not about Geoffrey Stewart, that is.
It was a Scotch and soda, sir, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Paxton. Inspector Clay would like a word with you.
He's on the phone.
No, he's here, sir, in my office.
Oh, we'll ask him to come in.
Oh, Mrs. Stewart telephoned. She wanted to speak to you.
When was this?
About half an hour ago. You were at the bank.
You should have told me.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot. I've been so busy this morning, Mr. Paxton. Several of the newspapers have been
Did
on to me.
Mrs. Stewart say what she wanted?
Oh, no, I asked her, but she wouldn't tell me. She sounded very tired, poor woman.
Yes, I expect she did. I don't suppose she slept a wink all night. I know I didn't. All right, Mary, I'll see the inspector. Oh, come in, Inspector. If Mrs. Stewart phones, sir, I'll ring her back later.
Yes, Mr. Paxton.
Well, sit down.
Have you seen Mrs. Stewart this morning, sir?
No, I haven't. Apparently she rang me, but I was out.
Oh, I was just wondering how she was. As a matter of fact, I've got some news for her, sir. I'm hoping it might be good news, sir.
Good news, Inspector?
Yes. Well, I know you've got a very busy day ahead of you, Mr. Paxton, so I won't waste your time. I just wanted you to have a look at these gloves. Have you seen them before, sir?
Yes, they're Mr. Stewart's.
You're sure?
Yes, quite sure.
They were in his car in the glove compartment. He must have left them there.
Yes, I suppose he must have done.
Very nice gloves, aren't they, sir? I expect he used them for driving.
Yes, he did.
The curious thing is, they don't fit him.
What do you mean?
They don't fit him, Mr. Paxton, or rather, they don't fit the dead man.
Are you sure?
I'm quite sure. They're too large, several sizes too large. And another curious point, Mr. Paxton. We took the dead man's fingerprints before we examined the car. Mr. Stewart's car, the Aston Martin.
Well?
Well, there are all kinds of fingerprints on the car, all shapes and sizes. But none of them were the dead man's.
Are you suggesting that the dead man isn't Mr. Stewart?
Well, what do you think?
But Mrs. Stewart identified the body.
Yes, she did. So did you, too, if it comes to that.
Must have been Mr. Stewart.
Well, why? His face was disfigured, badly disfigured. You certainly didn't recognize him by his face.
Well, no, but he was dressed the same. He had Mr. Stewart's clothes on. He was wearing his signet ring.
On the wrong finger.
On the wrong finger?
Yes, sir.
Well, what does this mean exactly?
It means that you and Mrs. Stewart were mistaken, sir. It means that Mr. Stewart could, in fact, still be alive.
Diana. I've been trying to get you. Shut the door. Just had the inspector here. They found out about the body, that it wasn't Geoffrey. I mean, apparently...
Geoffrey's alive. I told you, didn't I? I told you that phone call was genuine.
What is it? What's happened?
He phoned again.
When?
This morning.
I don't believe it.
I tell you, he telephoned.
Diana, you're mistaken. You must be mistaken.
Oh,
Don't
look,
you
Mark,
realize?
you don't understand. It wasn't me he phoned, not this time.
Wasn't you?
No.
And who was it?
Thelma.
He telephoned Thelma when?
I told you this morning. She arrived at the house about an hour ago. She was very subdued, not like her usual self at all.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I was just finishing breakfast, talking to Mrs. Houston. She arrived back this morning. We were talking, we had a car arrive, and a few moments later the bell rang. It was Thelma.
She's not in. I'll wait.
I'm sorry, madam, but Mrs. Bowen insisted on seeing you.
Dan, I'm terribly sorry bursting in on you like this, but...
It's all right, Mrs. Houston, thank you. Sam, what on earth's the matter?
Diana, I've got some news for you. That man they found, the man at Benchley Wood, it wasn't Geoffrey.
How do you know?
You're not going to believe this, Diana, but Geoffrey's alive. He telephoned me.
When?
This morning, about an hour ago.
Are you sure it was Geoffrey? Are you absolutely sure?
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it.
Why phone you? What was the point?
Well, he said if he spoke to you, you would only get distressed. Diana, he wants to see you. He wants you to meet him this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Where?
At the Chichester Motel. I think you must be staying there.
How would you really think it was Geoffrey you spoke to?
I knew it was Geoffrey. Good God, Diana, I know Geoffrey's voice. I know it almost as well as Walter's. I'm afraid he's in trouble, Diana. Real trouble.
Why do you say that?
Well, he asked me not to mention the phone call to anyone. And then just when he was ringing off, he said, "Tell Diana I've forgiven her for what happened on Monday. But I'm ill and I'm in trouble, Thelma, and I've just got to see her."
Is that all he said?
Yes. Diana, what happened on Monday?
On Monday? Oh, we had a row. It was, just before you came. Oh, it was nothing really, just a silly row. We were arguing about the holiday. I said it was a terrible hotel we were going to, and, well, you know how these things develop. Thelma, have you told anyone else about the phone call?
No, I haven't.
What about Walter?
Oh, he's in London for the day. He caught the 8:15.
I see. Well, don't tell him, please, Thelma. Do as Geoffrey says. Don't tell anyone.
All right, if that's what you want.
That's what I want. For the moment, at any rate. Before she left, I questioned her again about the phone call. I suggested perhaps it wasn't Geoffrey on the telephone, but someone else, someone impersonating him. She wouldn't hear of it. You see, you were wrong, Mark. It was Geoffrey I spoke to on Monday night after all.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe her story.
You mean you think Geoffrey didn't phone her?
Diana, how could he phone her? He's dead.
I told you on Monday night it was Geoffrey and you
Diana,
wouldn't believe it.
please!
If you don't believe Thelma's story, well, how do you account for the fact...
Look, it's no use asking me to account for anything because I can't, but I still refuse to believe that it was Geoffrey that telephoned you.
You think we were both mistaken?
Yes, I do.
You think someone impersonates his
Look,
voice?
Diana, I am just as puzzled, just as mystified by all this as you are, but we've got to face the facts.
But that's precisely what you're not doing. After Geoffrey was shot, you put the body in the car. Later, when you returned to the garage, he disappeared. Now, surely, quite apart from the phone calls, that proves Geoffrey was still alive when you left and that he managed to get out of the car.
Doesn't prove anything of the kind.
Then what do you think happened?
I've told you what I think happened. I think somebody went to the garage and took the body.
But how would they know about the body? How would they know what was in the car?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Mark, I think you're wrong. I think Geoffrey's alive and he told Thelma the truth about himself. Anyway, we'll soon know. If he keeps the appointment...
He's not going to keep that appointment, and neither are you.
What do you mean?
Diana, listen, don't you realize this could be a trap of some kind?
Trap? What kind of a trap?
I don't know what kind of... Diana, listen. I want you to go home and stay there till you hear from me. If Geoffrey's alive, he'll contact you again. He's bound to. If he's alive.
All right, Mark. I think that's the best thing to do.
I'm sure it is, darling.
Hello, my dear. It's nice to see you.
Hello, Ned.
Did Mr. Paxton give you my message?
Yes, thank you.
If there's anything I can do for you, my dear, anything, please don't hesitate.
It's very good of you.
No, I mean it, Diana. I'm not just saying this. Geoffrey was a very good friend of mine, and if there's any way I can help...
I remember that.
Yes, now, it doesn't matter what it is, my dear. I mean, anything to do with the business, the house, any problem, my dear. Please don't hesitate. I'm only too happy to help.
You're very sweet. Oh, Ned, how far is it to the Chichester Motel?
Oh, it's about 15 miles. It's this side of the town, just off the first roundabout.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Stewart. We've been trying to get in touch with you.
Why?
We've had an anonymous letter about your husband. He is dead after all, I'm afraid. We found his body about half an hour ago, hidden under the culvert.
What happened to him?
He was murdered. Shot.
Shot?
Yes, according to the doctor, he'd been dead for some time. A couple of days, in fact.
There's a Miss Tracy on the phone. She wants to speak to you.
Tracy?
Yes, this is the second call. She rang about 20 minutes ago and I said you were out.
Who is she, do we know?
Well, she has a little sweet shop in Station Street.
Oh, yes, I know. A funny-looking woman. Bit dotty, I should think.
That's right.
Well, tell her I'm engaged and find out what she wants.
Well, I'll try, but she's very persistent. She'll only ring back later.
Oh, all right, put her on. Mark Paxton speaking.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Paxton. I'm Kitty Tracy. We've never met, but I dare say you know my little shop in Station Street.
Yes, what can I do for you, Miss Tracy?
Well, I don't know that you can do anything for me. It's just that I've got some information for you.
Information? About what?
About a friend of yours, Mrs. Stewart.
What about Mrs. Stewart?
She's been arrested.
Arrested?
That's right, for murder. I don't have to tell you whose murder, do I, Mr. Paxton?
When was she arrested?
This afternoon.
Where?
At the Chichester Motel.
How do you know about this?
Well, I made it my business to find out, Mr. Paxton. Just as I made it my business to find out about you and Mrs. Stewart. And that other little matter, of course.
What other little matter?
Why, the bat out of hell.